You went into Fineos, was it?
One of the most successful fintechs that we have. Great company to work for. Lots of learning, lots of really good, and say leaders, not managers in there, including Michael Kelly, the CEO.
And then going into your first kind of Irish bank, AIB.
Where I ended up landing ultimately in AIB was on business banking, which again was building a product for our business customers. So it was very much bringing the product knowledge and the product way of working from Fineos into AIB.
But tell us a bit more then about the current role in Central Bank of Ireland.
Everything we do directly affects everyone in Ireland. We have to get it right.
And would you say that there's an even higher risk, like in this day and age, when it comes to cybercrime, cyber threats?
Oh, absolutely. It's growing. My view is assume it's a scam until you prove it's not.
Is there any piece of advice you were given that you kind of look back on and think, geez, that was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given?
The advice is you can't be successful without your team.
Brian, welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on. I want to go back to the start. Well, not the start, but the start of obviously your career in, computer engineering. So Trinity College, 1993, computer science. What made you decide to go and do that course?
It sounds a long time ago when you call out the year. That just shows the years are starting to age now. But so I was always interested in technology when I was growing up, tinkering around with things. And really when I came to looking at college, it was where are there jobs going to be in the future? So technology was growing, computers in particular was growing very quickly. My brother did computers in UCD a few years before, so I saw the growth in the sector. So that really kind of drove me into it, and didn't look back since then. So it was a very different course because it was half engineering, half computer science.
Okay, yeah.
And I probably preferred the more software side of the course, but even looking back now, because the course started from the ground up of the engineering side, it meant that you can, when there's an issue or a problem, you can go right back to kind of first principles. So it was a good grounding course from that point of view.
Very good. So ahead of the trend. Were there many people, I'm just trying to think back then, like would there have been many people choosing to do that course, trying to get in? Was it kind of highly competitive to get into that course?
I think we had 100, 120 people starting out the course. I think about 30 of that 120 would have ultimately graduated, but the computers wasn't that high demand. Science was probably the high demand. In, say, for example, in UCD, you did science and then you specialised in computers. They didn't have a computer science course. Trinity was one of the first. I think might have been the first pure computer science course that you could do in Ireland. So, but I think by the time I was graduating, that had completely changed. There was a lot more computers courses. The points had rocketed up. It's a very different state now. So.
Yeah. You decided, well, obviously you got your first role and then you went into Bear Stearns, you were engineering there, investment banking. What was that like? What was the environment like in there?
Yeah, it's so funny, even my first role in Trinity was like an extension of college because everybody from Trinity went to work for Iona. There was 3 lecturers that set up the company.
Okay.
And then people kind of moved on from there. So that was one of the, I suppose that it was the most successful Irish software company at the time.
Yeah.
Bear Stearns then into an investment bank, American investment bank, very different culture, different attitude. They pulled out of Ireland very quickly. I think I was in there for 2 years and then they pulled out of Ireland, and then 2 years later, Bear Stearns didn't exist. So,
gone, yeah.
So that was my main reason for moving on from there was there wasn't the job there anymore. So.
Yeah, and then you I guess not that you fell into a good place, but you went into Fineos, was it?
Yeah. So again, Irish-based company, one of the most successful fintechs that we have.
Yeah.
Great company to work for. The lots of learning, lots of really good, and say leaders, not managers in there, including Michael Kelly, the CEO. Had a fantastic time there. It was nearly 14 years in Fineos and very much grew through my career in Fineos and facilitated by the company. So
yeah. Yeah. What was the journey like then, going from a private company then to, a public company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange? Did then things really change in there?
So I wasn't there when they listed. They were getting ready. It was a couple of years after I left when they listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and I think looking at them now, they've even gone from strength to strength. They've increased numbers. They merged with a company in America, so it definitely has increased their profile and helped them grow, which is great. Still, from talking to people that are still working there, it still has held that Indigenous Irish culture, which I think will help the company long term.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, just in terms of, you're in a company that's obviously been mega successful. Was there any secret sauce? Did you see it? Was it like, did it come down from leadership or the culture or the people that they hired? Was there anything you could kind of nail on to why they were so successful?
Yeah, I think all of that, it was the leadership. I mean, the leadership there is very much focused on their employees, focused on the market. So it was a nice place to work. It was an enjoyable place to work. You wanted to go into the office. You wanted to work with the people there. People that want to work together will always produce great things. So that's your starting point. That's your base. And then you need leaders that have the vision. So if you think back, Fineos went through periods where there was the .com crisis, and the leadership there had the vision that they diversified out of the Irish market, but not just into the American market. They were in the Australian, New Zealand market. Yeah. So when the downturn came, it came in America for a start. Australia and New Zealand were somewhat protected, so the company was protected. So you need that vision. You need leaders that have a vision where the product's going, how the company can grow, but you need to foster a nice work environment where people want to come in, they can learn, they can grow. So
yeah. And in terms of your career path, starting as an engineer, like, did that help you shape, I want to look after architecture, I want to look after engineering, I want to be a head of engineering? Did Fineos play a massive part in that?
Yeah, so I would, when I started out in Iona, I was in their consultancy. So I did a lot of traveling, training courses and consultancy. Got tired of traveling very, very quickly, so moved in. So that was one of my reasons for moving on into Bear Stearns and ultimately into Fineos, into product development. And I suppose the real focus for me when I was in Fineos was product development, how to deliver for your customers. So it developed that, not even that engineering mindset, that customer mindset.
Yeah.
How we can deliver a product, and that brought me into the engineering space. So I would have grown up then working on the underlying technology, then working with teams, managing teams in the technology, and then ultimately moving on from Fineos. But even when I moved on from Fineos to AIB, it was bringing that customer product focus into the retail banks, which wouldn't traditionally have had that. So it definitely, the years I spent in Fineos would have shaped my career. Yeah. Absolutely shaped my career, shaped my outset, how you work with people and how you build great technology.
Did you find that there was a big contrast then, going from Fineos, obviously a company that's scaling, then going into your first kind of Irish bank, AIB?
Yeah, and actually one of the I suppose the biggest flip from Fineos to AIB was you were on the opposite side of the table. So you were a product company delivering into a financial institution, the banks and the insurance companies, to being in the bank dealing with software vendors and bringing in software and developing software in the bank for either the bank itself or the bank's customers. So it was a different focus from that point of view. But where I ended up landing ultimately in AIB was on business banking, which again was building a product for our business customers. So it was very much bringing the product knowledge and the product way of working from Fineos into AIB, and again even the agile way of working. So AIB at the time would have been only starting out on their agile journey. So that would have been new to the retail banks. and indeed the insurance companies at the time. So
yeah. And did you find then going into AIB, like, do you feel like you'd be a natural leader, like a head of engineering or a head of architecture? Does that come naturally to you?
I hate people who say that they're a natural leader. I mean,
yeah.
I would have empathy for people I work with and try and lead by example. I would have sometimes been accused of maybe running up the mountain and being there and then looking to say, okay, where is everyone?
yeah.
So I had to develop my own style in that, realizing that you have to bring people with you.
Yeah.
So my leadership style had to change over the years, in that it's not focused on how quickly or what you can get done yourself, but bringing the team with you. So, but that comes with time. You have to develop that. I don't think you're born a natural leader. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I think you develop that from the leaders that you work with.
Yeah.
One of my philosophies has always been that if you're in a company or working for someone that you can't learn from, well, then you should move.
Yeah.
So you want to learn from good leaders and learn, well, what did they do that makes you feel or makes you do better?
Yeah.
Well, you should mirror that when you move into your own management or your own leadership journey.
Yeah, no, of course, obviously you put your own style on management, but you do take little nuggets from each kind of, well, good leader that
exactly,
you've reported into.
And I suppose possibly my and it's kind of possibly my first leadership role was outside of IT, was helping coaching kids.
Yeah.
So when my own kids were born, and then doing GA coaching, like football and hurling and organising. So if you have 120 kids on a pitch on a Saturday morning that you have to organise, well, it helps focus the mind and how you.
Yeah. Well, what's tougher, managing a bunch of kids or a bunch of software engineers?
Definitely the kids. Definitely the kids. Although there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. I could just see you on a Sunday morning doing agile stand-ups and getting all the team together and reflecting off that. But tell us a bit more then about the current role in Central Bank of Ireland and what that entails.
Yeah. So it's a very different role. So I remember. Just over 2 years ago when I moved into the bank, and it's considered financial services, but it's very different. It's not financial services from the point of view of the retail banks or the insurance companies, where you have direct customers, but everything we do directly affects everyone in Ireland. So there's a lot of kind of pressure from that point of view, and we have to get it right. Like, so whereas in another commercial institution, if something goes wrong, it just reflects on that commercial institution. Yeah. In the central bank, it reflects on Ireland, and it reflects on the Irish, either the Irish economy or the Irish financial ecosystem. So there's a big focus on, we need to do right for the public. I kind of would have thought when I started out, the public service ethos, is it that different? It is. Like people, the natural thing is, are we doing we're working with public money, we're working for the public, and are we doing well by them, or doing right by them?
Yeah. There's a lot of pressure as well.
It builds a lot of pressure, but then there's a lot of things to be proud of. Like when you look at the financial sector in Ireland, how successful it is. When you look at how Irish customers are protected, and the regulatory regime that's there to protect them, that's something to be proud of from a company. And working in the IT department in the bank, we're working with our colleagues across to help them, enable them to do the regulation, but also in looking at how we work with the regulated institutions. Like there's an innovation sandbox ongoing at the moment, looking at cybercrime and how we protect Irish customers. Yeah. And that's work has been done in partnership with fintechs and retail customers. So it's a very different focus.
And would you say that there's an even higher risk, like in this day and age, when it comes to cybercrime, cyber threats?
Oh, absolutely. It's growing. I mean, I think You don't have to be in the bank or a retail bank or anywhere else to see even the number of scam emails people are getting, phone calls. I think you look every day in the papers, there's some story about someone being scammed out of money.
Yeah. I think we've all gotten an email or a text anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So people need to be really, really vigilant on what they get. Like if you get an email, my view is assume it's a scam until you prove it's not. Yeah. And if you have any doubt, ring the institution that is purporting to be in the email or the text. Yeah. Ring them directly. Don't ring the numbers that are in the email or text. Find a number directory and ring them. Yeah. Just protect yourself because you just hear.
Oh yeah, as I said, every day there's a new scam or a new wave of something that people are getting hit by.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've worked in highly regulated environments, banking, obviously central bank as well. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges when trying to bring innovation and technology at its core?
It's balancing the risk with innovation. You need to move things forward, but you can't move things forward at 100 miles an hour without having thought about the risk from the start. You hear a lot about the likes of GDPR and all that now, and there's ways and means of getting around that from the point of view of when you're designing. Privacy by design is the terminology to use, but build it in from the start. Think about risk. Think about what you're trying to do, what you need to protect before you move forward. Now, that can mean things look slower or move a little bit slower than if you're in a technology company that doesn't have a financial risk or doesn't have a risk to the customer. And I would have, when I was in the retail banks, there was always a view of when you're working, what's the risk to the customer? And is it financial risk? What's the risk to the bank? Is it financial? What's the reputation risk? They were always front of mind. Yeah. And then work through what you can do at a pace and balancing. So it's always a balancing pace of innovation and change with that risk. On the good side, though, is that by being a fast follower rather than on the bleeding edge, some of the mistakes are made by like institutions or other companies that they can afford to make those mistakes. It's not as big a challenge, and you can learn from them. So which means that you can build it in right then and get it right from the start.
Yeah. And there's so many different, I guess even emerging technologies and let's say the likes of AI. I guess a question I'd have is what challenges Irish banks might have when it comes to embracing AI?
So the starting point is understanding it, understanding what it can do. If you use it, understanding what it has done. So I think we hear a lot of Gen AI in particular, hype of, it's wonderful, it can do everything for you, it's going to take everybody's job. That's certainly not the case. It's the same as any other technology. It's new, the hype is there, but we need to understand how you can use it best. Is it making mistakes? Yes. Does it make wrong decisions? Yes. So you need to make sure that there's a human in the loop there. So it's all about smart assistance is what you hear, but really it's how can AI help me do my job better or quicker? Yeah. But how do I make sure that I understand what that AI has done and that I can check its homework? Yeah. And I think all the financial institutions that are looking at AI have that to look at. It's like, well, okay, if we're using AI, do we understand how it's making a decision? Is it making a decision in the best interest of the customer? Yeah. And the EU AI Act is going to, I think you hear, there's too much regulation in Europe. I think the EU AI Act is going to help us because, again, back to, it's going to make us think about what we're putting in place early as opposed to putting it in place and then finding, oh, there's a mistake there. Something doesn't work, or we have detrimentally affected a customer's life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not perfect, and there are mistakes that come with it. If you went back, let's say in your career, you're a software engineer and AI is around, like how would you use that in your day to day?
So I can see today in developers and even in the bank, the likes of GitHub Copilot, it helps speed up the development. So it's when I would have started out, we were, and it's a long time ago, as you pointed out earlier. Thanks very much for that. We had effectively text files. So your listeners would hear and know about VI. VI was what was a quick text editor. That's what we started out in college. And then as that went through, it became, there's IDs to help you write the code a little bit quicker. There's code completion. For me, AI is the next generation of that it's faster code completion. But you still have to know what you're doing. It's not gonna write it for you. You have to bring the intelligence and the smarts and how to apply it. And I think that's where the hype at the moment is. It has the smarts and the intelligence, but it doesn't. It's an aid.
Yeah, exactly. Assistance, as you say. Yeah. Is there any roles within technology you see, like, I don't know, quality assurance engineers or anything like that you could see AI completely replacing, or do you think it'll always just be there to assist?
Well, if you hear some people, well, you'll have AI writing the code, AI writing the tests and doing the testing, but then how do you know what it's done? So I don't think it'll ever completely replace any role. I mean, I could be here in 10 years' time and I could be completely wrong, but I do see it. You will always need someone to review what it's done. Is it doing it correctly? Even in quality assurance, like blind testing doesn't necessarily test the right things. So again, it will help. It will give you the skeleton of the test. So it'll help you automate what you're doing. So there'll be less roles, the same way as if when we introduce hyper automation. But there'll be different roles. But I don't think it'll outright replace jobs. Not for a long time yet.
As you say, kind of smart assistance seems to be what most people think. I want to get the view from, let's say, yourself as a hiring manager. Like, do you think Ireland is developing enough kind of homegrown talent, or do you think we need to look abroad and bring people here? Or what have you seen? What trends?
So I think we have a lot of homegrown talent in Ireland. I think, and looking at the market, it's evident itself. If you look at the number of big tech companies that have come to Ireland, like the only reason they have come to Ireland is because the market is favourable to them. And it's not just about the tax cuts. It's also about the people that are here. So our universities are producing very, very high quality individuals. If you think back to when we went to college, a lot of people weren't going to college then. Now, most people are coming out of college with degrees, with masters, with PhDs. Like the bar is lifting all the time. Now, we still have to bring in skilled people from abroad because we're a small country. We can't handle the amount of work that's here in technology. So I think it is both. You need both. You also want both because you don't want the kind of one university or one country group thing. So bringing in people from abroad with different experiences, different cultures, that helps us grow. It helps us think differently. So I do think it's very much a blend. Like it's we have a lot of very strong talent, and even ourselves, where if you look at how we're investing as a country, the central bank is working with UL and is investing with Insight on a data analytics PhD, a sponsored data analytics PhD. So And we have more institutions doing that as well. So we are always looking at how do we bring that talent along in Ireland.
Yeah.
We have to bring in from abroad as well, because just demand is so high.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, the country is small, but I've seen some positive trends. As you say, the bar is getting higher. I would have been in Dogpatch Labs a week ago, and they were setting up for a hackathon at the weekend of students from UL coming up, and there was like 500 coming up to do a hackathon on a Saturday, which I'm thinking, that shows really...
Yeah, and it shows how interested they are.
Exactly, especially if
they'll probably go drinking afterwards, but...
yeah, but you won't see, not a lot of people kind of doing other college courses are going to spend a Saturday doing it, so no, that is, it is good to see. What would your advice be then to, let's say, someone who's just graduated college and wants to someday be a technology leader, whether it be a CTO or a chief product officer? Would it be, go join a startup or go into somewhere like, a bank or a larger company where you can kind of work your way up? Or does it depend?
I think it really does depend. My thing from a starting point is understand the company you're going into. What's the culture of the company? Is it a learning culture? Yeah. If it's not a learning culture, walk away. If it's a culture of bring you in and burn you out within 2 or 3 years, well, that's not a culture of developing staff. That's a culture of destroying staff, just taking every bit from you. And so anyone starting out, I'd say look at where you're going in. What's the culture of the company? Is the company growing? Is there a learning culture? Are the people in there and staying? And what can you learn? So are you going into an environment where there's leadership you can learn from? But I would also say, don't stay in a company where you're hitting a point where, I'm either stagnating from my learning or stagnating from my career. Don't be afraid to move on. A lot of people who go into some of the larger institutions here don't ever move on. And they don't develop their learning journey then. They develop, one way of thinking. You need to be in an organization where it's either big enough that you can move on and get different learnings within the organization, or it's like a startup where it's changing constantly, or you need to just move on. Don't be afraid to change jobs, change roles. Yeah,
exactly. And you were quite lucky to, work in cultures where, you could learn from someone. There was obviously good mentors around you. Is there any piece of advice you were given that you kind of look back on and think, geez, that was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given? Or have I put you on the spot asking you?
No, and I think, again, it's back to nearly that culture thing. The advice is you can't be successful without your team. Yeah. So if you have a happy, functioning, high-performing team, you will be successful as a leader. Yeah. You're not going to be a successful leader if you have a team who hate coming in to work and don't like working together, or don't like you because you're not helping them. So you have this view of the servant leader. Not necessarily saying everybody needs to be a servant leader, but you need to have empathy for your team. You need to work with your team. Yeah. And that's, to me, that's the best piece of advice is know your team, know how to get the best out of your team, and make sure you're working with them. And wherever you are in the journey, you'll always have someone above you that you need to be learning from.
Yeah. No,
so exactly. Make sure your learning journey doesn't stop.
Yeah. And when it comes to then building teams, like, would you have a strong preference, let's say, for keeping in-house expertise rather than outsourcing like some companies do?
And I've experienced both. Yeah. So when I was in AIB, we had a large outsource in both nearshore and offshore. Apex would have had a lot of offshore. Yeah. Central Bank Brian Dillon is kind of unusual in that most people are located here, and although we do have partners, it's a local market. The advice I'd give is you need to have a footprint. So if everybody's remote, it's very hard to build a team. So you need to have a footprint, and even if what I found where I've had dispersed workforces around the globe, there needs to be a footprint in each of the locations. So So if you have a team in Ireland working with a team in India, it needs to be a team in India and a team in Ireland. And then it's how do you work? How do you make sure that they can come together and work closely? Are you bringing the team over? Yeah. So you have periods of time where we're working together, because when you bring them into the same office for a period, and then when they go back to the remote locations, you find they work better together.
Yeah, exactly.
Having individual people dotted around the place doesn't always work.
Yeah, exactly. It's so difficult then to build that, the right type of culture.
Yeah, well, you need to have that ability to work as a team wherever you are. Yeah. And that's what I've seen is the making sure that's possible, making sure there's good open communication channels across wherever you're working. I think when I was in AIB, the last role in AIB, we had it was 7 different geographic locations for one team, but we made sure it worked, as in we made sure everybody had the communication together, knew how to talk to each other. We brought them together once or twice a year to make sure they felt that they were actually all one team.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Would you have any views then on kind of remote working versus hybrid versus, 5 days in the office? Do you?
Again, so where I am now, we're 50% back in the office. Personally, I like it because there's a buzz about the office when you go in. Conversations that you wouldn't have if you remember back to COVID. You had to schedule fun, schedule having a coffee with someone, and I'm going to have a remote coffee with over the phone. It's not the same.
No, not at all.
So I think that hybrid where you're back in the office a few days a week helps. You can do workshops, which you couldn't do. Yeah. We couldn't have this conversation if we if we didn't come into this office. Yeah. But I don't think it needs to be 5 days a week either. I think people have changed how they work. Well, before COVID, I would have worked 5 days predominantly in the office. But now I work from home a couple of days a week, and it suits me to work from home a couple of days a week, and I can organize my life around that. So I do think that hybrid is that getting that balance is.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Do you think that some of the companies that have made a call for 5 days back in the office, do you think they'll face challenges then when it comes to attracting talent, or even?
I think so. Yeah, I maybe not retaining talent, because talent often doesn't move on necessarily that quickly. Yeah. But if they look back in a number of years' time, they may find that if other companies haven't adjusted, they will have lost people. Yeah. But if people are looking for roles, they're going to look for a hybrid. Seems to be what people are looking for. But similarly, the companies that aren't offering hybrid and it's all remote, I don't think they'll attract people either. No. It's very hard for someone to start a new job.
Yeah, get on board fully
and
remote.
Get on board if it's all fully remote. Exactly. So we've had a few people start with us in the last year. And one of the reasons for them moving in was the hybrid working. They were working fully remote. They'd never been in an office before the interview with us in 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, as you mentioned earlier, learning and developing and working somewhere where you do learn and develop, it is very difficult to do that if you're working fully remote. And then on the flip side, let's say you're managing a team, it's so difficult for you to kind of sense almost the vibe of how someone is feeling, because you're on a virtual call, they're telling you everything is fine, but you don't know when they close the laptop how
exactly.
Going, I've had enough of this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
and I think it's not about the I don't believe they're working because they're remote. It's I don't have that interaction with someone. You don't know the person. You can't, as you say, you can't get the vibes from them over a video call.
Yeah. Okay. Looking back at your career then, is there anything that you wish you did earlier in your career, or maybe something you adopted or did later that you're thinking, geez, I should have done that 5 years before?
I mean, possibly I could have moved roles more frequently. I was 14 years in Fineos.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, it probably helped shape my career as well. So that would be one of the things. And as I said earlier, I think people shouldn't be afraid to move if they feel there's opportunities there. So grasp the opportunities. Yeah. But other than that, I took a fairly straight line through my career from the point of view of going to college in technology, moving into. So it was a fairly well trodden path.
Yeah, definitely.
I possibly could have, in the earlier years, there was opportunities to take risks with a startup. Yeah. That I didn't take. So, looking back, could that have brought a different story?
No, it's interesting. Hindsight, of course. Are the startup, are they still around?
One of them is, one of them isn't. But again, so whereas I would have always looked at, okay, I moved into fairly big, stable companies. So that's something I could have taken a risk with, is moving into a company that had the 5 or 6 employees or the 10 employees, and see where it goes. And
exactly.
And even with those, if so long as they last enough that you're learning, it's
and you can always move on. Exactly. Is that ever a deciding factor for you? Let's say you are hiring someone and you look at the CV and they've, let's say, a software engineer, and they've done 3 years in 6 companies, 3 years each, or like, are you looking for more longevity, or do you think with software engineering, it really depends?
I think I'd be worried if I saw 3 months in 6 companies. 3 years, I wouldn't be worried at all. 3 years is actually quite a long period in the software sector. People do move on. It's actually my own journey of like over 10 years in one company. That's unusual. And so no, it wouldn't influence me from the point of view of are they moving on too quickly? It'd be, do they have a reason for moving on? Why did they move on? Can they explain it? I say I'd be more worried if someone was in a company and was gone after a couple of months, and there was a few companies where they were gone after a couple of months, and they weren't a contractor.
Yeah.
So that'd be well, why are you moving on so quickly? Yeah, because you'd be worried if you bring them in, they could move on from you. So you're going through all the effort of bringing them in, getting them up to speed on our ways of working, our technologies, for them to leave. So you need to make sure that there is some longevity. Yeah, case by case basis, and obviously once they can explain it and the motivation for change. Exactly. Yeah. So. You've obviously worked at banks, Central Bank, obviously Irish banks going through kind of large transformations, and then you see the likes of kind of Revolut come in and, take up obviously market share in Ireland. What do you think Irish banks need to do going forward to compete with the likes of that? The obvious one is technology. The like Revolut cornered a lot of the market for certain types of payments, certain types of transactions, but they cornered it based on the technology platform. Yeah. It was that customer first thinking. So they benefit from being a new company that didn't have a legacy core system or a legacy backend that they needed to build and bring through. So they were able to offer very, very new ways of doing banking. And that's where their sweet spot is, and they're constantly, you can see they're constantly evolving and changing what they're offering there. That's, for me, that's where our Irish institutions need to learn from. How do we look at the customer, look at what they want, understand that the customer has changed. Yeah. The customer from 20 years ago was very different. You or I have a very different view of what banking is than my 18-year-old son or my 16-year-old daughter. Yeah, so, and I think if the Irish institutions don't realise that, it could be too late. So yeah, in terms of the next question, I was thinking in terms of Irish institutions and
the trends, obviously different kind of mobile apps, new things coming to the market. Do you think it's positive? Do you think they're going in the right way, or maybe they're going in the right way but just not quick enough?
Yeah, no, I think they are. I think there's a lot of investment being put into looking at what's needed, how do they compete. I think the legacy technology back end question is there. That's always going to be a challenge. Yeah. If you look at the investment that the larger pillar banks have, in particular, and the insurance companies are putting in, that is what they're trying to shrink, change, and move. So that's always going to be a challenge. Yeah. And it's how do they get the new applications and new ways of interacting with customers on top of those legacy systems, or change those legacy systems in a safe manner while you're building. Yeah, so yeah. It's changing the wings of the plane while you're in the sky for
while you're flying. Yeah. Okay. And another question I have for you would be, is there one mistake you made in your career that you kind of look back on and you've learned from? I'm sure there's probably a few, but is there
there's always mistakes. It's how quickly you can bury them, isn't it? So one mistake, and I think back to like there was opportunities there from the point of view of going out. I say I had opportunities for a CTO role very, very early on in my career, and I do wonder the time if I had taken that, where or what I would be doing today. I took a slower path to a CTO role in Apex, possibly another, and again I have quite a positive, so I see where you learn from your mistakes. So I moved into Apex. Yeah. Again, I kind of nearly didn't take my own advice in looking at a company that was growing through acquisition. So it was very, very, there was a lot of turmoil, both from a technology point of view and a political point of view in there. So going into that environment, it was a very different environment. And maybe if I looked back now, was it the right choice to make at the time? I certainly learned a lot from it. Yeah. But
would it be one of those? Would it keep you up at night?
No, I think I very much take a view of if it's past and it's under the bridge, you need to learn and you need to move on. I'm lucky that I have a very good job where I am, working with great people. I am, comfortable at home. I don't have the mansion and the Porsche, or but for me that's what it's about. It's if you look back and are you happy going to work? Are you happy going home? I had a manager actually that told me once that you spend most of your time in work. So that if you're not happy,
if you're not enjoying it,
then that's most of your life that you're not going to be happy. Yeah. And if you're not happy in work and you're spending 60% of your time in work, you're going to bring that home, and you're not going to be happy at home. Yeah. So you need to make sure that you have a place that you're happy working in, that you're working with people you want to work with, and then you're coming home and you're bringing that home. Like I bring the kids into work on the Christmas Eves and that, and they can see that it's a good place, and they can and it's an open place for them to come in. That I had my daughter in for a TY program there this year, and at the end of the week she was absolutely buzzing from the experience. So that's what you want. For me, that's success. It's are you happy?
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, that's the main thing. How do you keep up to date, I guess, with different trends and emerging technologies? Is there any books you read or podcasts you listen to?
So I probably should say I listen to the leaders in
I was just listening to it this morning.
Podcast. Is that
I was wondering who our number one subscriber was.
But yeah, it's looking at trends, this different websites. But I always find actually it's your peers. Someone say, "Have you listened to this, or have you seen this, or what's changed?" And you're learning through your interaction with people in the technology area. We interact with people in outside of your company. So what groups are you in? So what technology groups are you in? Learning groups? Are you going to and listening to different either mini conferences or mini meetups? Because you'll always learn somebody has done something differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and getting an external person who, just to hear from and then upskill yourself.
Exactly, yeah. So then it kind of piques an interest if it's something that you haven't looked at. And then, work on that. But we'll be able to use Gen AI to be able to ask.
There you go.
What do I need to learn this year?
What do I need to read today? If someone was moving into a technology leadership position, is there a book maybe you'd recommend, or is there one book that you've read that's really helped you?
I must say I'm probably the exception to the rule in having read lots and lots of self-help books. No, I don't necessarily believe in them. I am very much there's obviously there's different mini books in that. I think I'm trying to think one of the ones that I think it was a great one, and it's very small, is Who Moved My Cheese? Okay. And it's about change. So I think it would take you maybe an hour to read.
Okay, yeah.
But it was about mice, and when the cheese got moved, one of them stayed still looking for the cheese and died, and another went off trying to find where the cheese had been moved to and flourished. So again, bringing in that if the change is always going to happen, and you need to embrace that change. So I say it's I don't believe in all the self-help books, but it's one of the books that really stuck in my mind. I think given the environment we're in, that it's such a change environment.
Oh God, even talking about the Irish banking sector there, like that obviously resonates then with that story as well, and embracing change. Oh, very good. Well, look, it was great having you on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Great to tell your story, hear about your journey, and obviously wish you the best for the future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good man.
Good to meet you.